I thank each one of the members who have spoken today fairly in detail about the insurance bill, which opens up the sector to receive FDI to up to 74%. Ma'am, as you're aware, insurance is a very highly regulated sector, and the regulator actually regulates literally so many minute details of insurance itself. The regulator approves the product. The regulator also regulates the pricing. The regulator oversees the investment, regulates it naturally, and also regulates the way it is marketed. So, insurance sector is very highly regulated. So every bit of what we do after discussing in this House is part of what the regulator is to take into his cognizance, and effectively that is what is point on point kept as oversight. Now, all of us have been hearing discussions about FDI being raised, FDI limit is going up, will it become another East India company, and so on. I'm sure many of us do recognize, and I would want to place it here for the record, FDI is only an upper limit. It is only an upper limit. There is no compulsion that every company will have to take up to 74%. Increasing does not mean the foreign investment will increase automatically to that extent in each one of the companies. And also, even as I go into the details of what are the safeguards, it will be very fairly clearly established that the policyholders' funds will be invested only within India, and that's not going to go out. So FDI will not only bring in capital, it will bring in greater competition, consumer will have more choice, there will be best practices being brought in from different parts of the world, know-how on technology, on some long gestation activities which the insurance naturally implies, will all have to be undertaken. And that will be possible with opening up. Madam Chairperson, I want to underline the fact that today there is 49% FDI allowed through automatic route, and that is since 2015. Many honourable members have questioned, saying what actually has been the benefit of that? What actually has been the penetration since after 2015? Has it made any difference? And so, if that has not made a difference, which is their presumption, if that has not made a difference, what's the hurry to increase it further to 74? I'd like to dwell on that point a bit more. All private insurance meet insurance regulators' solvency margin norm of 150%. So for every 100 rupees, 150 rupee is got to be kept as cash or some kind of a asset. Today, many of the companies are hard-pressed to maintain that solvency level. And when we talk about insurance companies, many of the times our discussions confine only to the public sector insurance companies, be they general insurance or life insurance. I'll for a minute explain to honourable members that today the share of the public sector, whether it's in life insurance or in general insurance, and the share of the private sector will itself explain as to why there is a need for bringing more FDI into this country because of the solvency ratio requirement. If you have to maintain it at 150, and if you are in the private sector, and if you have to raise equity for your business, it is not that easy. But at the same time, there are investors in the long-term funding nature, whether they are sovereign funds or pension funds, who are themselves wanting to invest in India so that they get enough returns. 3 of the 7 public sector undertakings. This will be important for honourable members to recognize and take into cognizance. As I said, the attention of many of the members speaking on this bill has been purely at the public sector undertakings. So I want to underline this fact. 3 of the 7 public sector insurers are below solvency margin. 3 of them are already under solvency margin, but they are public sector, so the government will infuse and they will be taken care of. But there are also outside, in the private domain, companies on which government has nothing to do, but the market will have to be providing them the opportunities to raise monies. And that is why opening up and increasing to 74 is important. So to presume that there's enough liquidity in the market today and to think there is no stress may not be well-founded arguments. There is definitely a financial stress for raising monies, especially for private sector insurance companies, which need to maintain that solvency ratio. As I said, regulators require you to keep 150%. And where do they get that money from if they have to have that kind of a solvency ratio as a matter of due diligence? So, solvency margin is the ratio, just for our understanding, of assets to liabilities. So, Madam Chairperson, if that is the situation today of the insurance industry, I want to say it is no different from, and that is probably one of the points that Honorable Member Manish Tiwari said, while earlier governments did want to do it and you opposed it, and I would tell you why we today want to do it, and this is no U-turn. I'll explain the circumstances which have changed, and as a result, our position will have to change. And that is very much inconsistent in being in consistency with our position. So I just want to quote one of our former finance minister, 4th October 2012 speech. Shri P. Chidambaram had then said, though the Parliamentary Standing Committee headed by BJP's leader, Shri Yashwant Sinha, had recommended retaining FDI cap at 26%, the government has gone for the higher cap so as to meet the growing capital requirement of insurance companies. And this speech was made after the cabinet had approved the proposal to raise FDI to 49%. The circumstances are fairly similar even today. So I would want to assure the members that enough and more thinking by the regulator. Since after my July speech, wherein I said there could be an increase in some of the sectors, inclusive of insurance sector, which is what I said in my opening remark, that work was taken up by the regulator, consultations were held, and it was clearly, repetitively said that we need to raise the insurance cap because that is definitely because you need more money to come in. So the consultations which the regulator, insurance regulator in India, IRDAI, has done included 60 insurers, a number of promoters, leading industry chambers, all of whom suggested that we need to have to increase it. So it is only after due consultation that we've come up with this bill. We've not rushed through. Some of the members were observing with a bit of anxiety that you're rushing through, bulldozing. None of that. There is a clear testing of the ground through the insurer, consultation through the insurer, and the opinions coming through from the industry stakeholders, which affirm the need for increasing, and therefore it is being taken up. So the recommendations are very strong, and that is why we've gone ahead with talking about raising the cap. Now, just for us to get a perspective of how many insurance companies are there, how many are in public sector, how many are in private sector, otherwise we tend to think that everything to do with the insurance raising of the cap is only for LIC. First of all, let me take this opportunity to say many honorable members, inclusive of former minister, representative from Shiv Sena, Arvind Savantji, said in fact, most of his speech, almost 90% of his speech, concentrated on LIC. This is not LIC bill. It has nothing to do with LIC. This is completely the insurance sector bill. And the amendment is to raise the cap. And here I want to draw the attention of the honorable members to how many are there indeed in the public sector versus how many are in private sector. I'll just sort of read it out. I did this in the Rajya Sabha, and to my understanding that actually brings the right perspective for us to understand what are we talking about. Insurance sector, Madam Chairperson, has, if you ask me, three components. The one which is entirely dealing with life insurance. The second, which is a slightly broad basket, which consists of three different components. One, which is general insurance, which in some cases also may partly include health. Second is a standalone set of insurance companies which deal only with health. And third is agricultural insurance companies. Our honorable member Ajay Mishra ji spoke about agriculture insurance and so on. There are some which are exclusively dealing with agricultural insurance. So if you look at the spectrum of insurance, the one which is completely life and the other general insurance, which consists of three different categories. So if you look at it, madam, public sector life insurance, there's only one company. Whereas in private sector, that which deals with life insurance, 23 companies are there today. They have got to be raising their money. They have to comply with the regulators' requirement as regards solvency ratio. They need money to come out of stress, some of which are in stress situations, some of the companies. Then when you come to the second basket, which consists of three different layers, the general insurer, the health, and the agriculture. General insurance, with some of them doing partly some health insurance, there are 4 in public sector, 22 in private sector. If you go to the next one, which is the standalone health dealing insurance company, there are not one in public sector, which is a standalone health insurer. But there are 5 in private sector. And in agricultural insurance, which is the third component of the second wider basket, only one exists in agricultural insurance, and that is in public sector. There are none in private sector. Now, there are also companies which are reinsurers. Reinsurance, public sector has only one, whereas private sector has 11. And therefore, when we are talking about insurance sector, Honorable Chairperson, Madam, 7 public sector versus 61 in private sector. For the 61, money should be available for doing business. And when I heard many members saying, Atmanirbhar, yes, Atmanirbhar. We want to cover all the Indian population. I heard very passionately Supriya ji, Sule tell us about Dalit, Soshit, Pidit, Vanchit. I'm very much with you, ma'am, on that. If we have to cover Soshit, Pidit, Vanchit, Prime Minister has come up with Jeevan Jyoti, Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Jyoti, Bima Yojana. Why is that? Because we want to ensure, and in that, if I know the details, many honorable members know it, 1 rupee per day, you are able to insure your life. 1 rupee per day, you are able to ensure if there is any accident. The breadwinner of the house, if he loses a limb, he gets the money, 1 rupee. It's possible only because the Prime Minister had really spent a lot of time understanding how to bring the premium down. All that is possible only if you're going to expand the scope, expand the universe of people to be covered. And that has got to be done only when you have the insurance sector being dealt with greater resources. Government alone cannot do it all. And on that ground, we are consistent. And that is why the public enterprise policy, about which I'll expand in a minute, has expanded to say government will have to do, private sector should also have a role to play. Otherwise, that aspiration of a growing India is not going to be met within our time, so that we see the changes which are so important for us. So if that is the spread of insurance, it is very important also for us to recognize what impact it has on job creation. What impact it has on job creation, and as much as all of us are concerned about what will happen to LIC employees, yes, I will stand by. I'll tell you all the assurances, all the commitments made to every one of the employee will be safeguarded by this government to every word. But what happens to the employees who are there in the private sector? It's all right if they can close their company without money. Who's going to give them the equity for building their business? If they shut the organizations, what happens to the employees? Does Government of India, as Government of India, have a responsibility towards them also? Just see the employment in public versus private. Public sector, life insurance, 1,11,000 people are employed. Private sector, 1,81,000 people are employed. General, inclusive of agriculture, 54,000 people are employed in public sector. 86,000 people are employed in the private sector. So, in a way, take the total, 1,65,000 in public sector and 2,67,000 in private sector. 1 lakh is the difference between the two. So there are people out there working as insurance agents, employees of companies. Even they are citizens of this country. Even the companies for which they are working for are Indian companies. They also need money. Then, and if this is employees directly employed in those companies, take the number of the agents who are working for these companies. Public sector, I'm not dividing between life and general, just to save time. Public sector, 15,45,000 people are working as agents in public sector. Most often we'll say, some honorable members also said, agents, the credibility of the agents in the villages. Yes, all of us are aware. And their number is 15,45,000 in public sector. In private sector today, post the 2015 increasing the cap, the rapid growth of insurance companies in India, today in private sector, 21,04,000 people work as agents. Does the government have to keep them in mind or not? We'll have to keep them in mind. And therefore, total employees who are in public sector, the employees and also the agents, put together 17 lakhs in public sector and 24 lakhs in private sector. 7 lakhs is the gap between the public sector employment and the private sector. So we should keep in mind that even those who are working in private sector insurance, they are there, they're growing rapidly because there's opportunity in this country. Madam, about penetration, about density, about the coverage, I don't want to take the House's on precious time. There are details available. Many members have even referred to it during their intervention. The one thing which I want to underline here is FDI limit for insurance intermediaries. Insurance is one thing, intermediaries is the second. FDI limit for insurance intermediaries has been enhanced to 100% sometime in 2019, September 2019 itself. So today we are only talking about insurance companies and not the intermediaries. Ma'am, specifically some of the points which have been raised by honorable members, whilst I answer them, probably will also explain a lot of questions which have been raised by the other members. Honorable member Manish Tiwari said public sector presence in insurance, banking in India protected India at a time, global financial crisis of 2008. Yes, there is no dispute, it protected. But it also today has grown too much into the private sector also, as I explained in the data. And also, selling of family silver. Not at all. We are only strengthening the Indian insurance sector. Nobody is selling anybody's household silver, meaning Government of India's family silver. By the enhancement from 49 to 74%, the private sector is going to be able to raise its resources. We are not talking about the public sector here. And why does one have to worry about the private sector? Because of the expanse, about the growth, about the coverage, about the number of people employed. So for them also, the government has to do something. As I said earlier, public sector may receive public funds, but what happens to that sector which is now desperately wanting to grow, to have a better coverage? So it is important to recognize that. And I go back to talking about the PSE policy. Banking, insurance and financial services recognized as a strategic sector. So the public sector presence will continue. So those of us are very quick to say, selling family silver, you're going to go finish off all the public sector undertakings. Not at all. Public sector undertakings will continue because we've already in the policy, which I announced during the budget in this August House, I've already recognized that banking, insurance and financial sector constitute part of the strategic sector that we've announced. So there will be public sector in this area. However, let's not forget the fact that unlocking of public investment, we can't afford to lock up all the public investment in this area in public sector undertaking, be it insurance or in banks. The policy, therefore, is about right-sizing the public sector and also about unlocking value and investment made in PSE beyond the required size needed for a strategic presence. And that is why when the policy says that we will keep a bare minimum of public sector undertakings, these are strategic areas, we will keep them and they will continue to be there. And for them, the public funds will be available. But for the private, I repeat, they need to raise money. Member from Jaunpur, UP, I'm not sure if he's here, Shyam Singh Yadavji, he's here? I'm very grateful he thought he should say in Tamil. In the policy, நான் எதிர்க்கிறேன் ரொம்ப சந்தோஷம் எதிர்க்கிறீங்கன்னா எதிர்க்கிறீங்க வருத்தமா இருக்கு எனக்கு ஆனா சந்தோஷம் எதுக்குன்னா தமிழ்ல சொன்னீங்க நீங்க He said in Tamil. And I was very impressed. I was very impressed that you said it in Tamil. You're fond of Tamil? I'm so happy. I'm so impressed.
We all.
I'm so impressed. Thank you very much. So, however, I wish you had said, I support your bill because it's worthy of support. However, because you opposed it in Tamil, I give you a gentle reply and leave it at that. I've already expressed as to why we need to have the penetration, and since the penetration is happening, we also need to give them the window for raising resources, and therefore the bill. You attempted in Tamil, I'll attempt in Hindi. You said, Hindustan ke paisa bahar le jayenge. Did you say that? Honorable Chairperson, Madam. कोई हमारे पैसा को बाहर लेके नहीं जाएंगे हमारे इंश्योरेंस के पैसा हमारे यहाँ ही रहेगा और उससे ऊपर भी क्या बोलते हैं और तो और क्या और तो और even the munafa one portion of it will be kept in India so you can be assured sir shall I say this in Tamil in case you understand it better then So,
यादव जी
अगर वो यहाँ बिजनेस करने आएगा बहुत सिंपल क्वेश्चन है मेरा अगर वो फॉरेन एंटिटी यहाँ बिजनेस करने आएगी तो जो हमारे इंश्योरर का पैसा है वो ले जाएगी कि यहाँ छोड़ के जाएगी वो सूनर और लेटर
प्रॉफिट तो शेयर होगा भाई
Shyam Singh ji, Madam Chairperson, through you, I wish to inform the member. Actually, after 2015, when the ceiling was raised, insurance penetration rose from 3.76% to higher levels. And between 2011 and 14, in the absence of required investments, Indian insurance penetration actually dropped from 4.10 to 3.30%. So it actually comes down when enough liquidity is not available, and therefore we have to open up. Since penetration is what is the penetration? It is the premium to the GDP ratio. It can only increase if insurance sector grows at a rate faster than the GDP growth itself. And that is why between 2015 and 20, it grew at about 74% when the GDP grew overall about 63%. And that rapidity in growth is what has made a difference to the insurance sector. So I want to just ensure that members are aware of that. Dr. S.T. Hassan. He said FDI proposals he's not here. But one line which I want to say, although I did have a few things to tell, one line which honourable member said was FDI proposal is to sell LIC. No, I repeat, honourable members not here, madam, this bill has nothing to do with LIC. So let that confusion not prevail. A few questions which were raised by Honourable Supriya Sule, madam. East India Company, no. Atmanirbhar Bharat, yes.
Yes.
Monetization, yes, but no selling of silver. But I will tell you how. And also, I'm very grateful indeed that you spoke in such glowing terms about our leaders, Srimati Sushma Swaraj and about Sri Arun Jaitley ji. They've always conducted themselves, and they've all been such mentors for us in such exemplary way that you recognize them, absolutely proper, and all of us do feel the same thing about them. And so the positions that they took then were absolutely in alignment with what was the prevailing situation then. The prevailing situation then did not allow, and in the form in which the UPA government at that time was talking about the bill, did not allow for safeguards. And what is the change today? We have made adequate safeguards, and such safeguards which will ensure that the Indian policyholders' money will be retained in India. The safeguards is the difference, madam. At that time, if both our leaders stood up to say we oppose, it is because the kind of safeguards that which was envisaged then was not adequate. And therefore, one. Two, on the monetization. Monetization does not mean that the entire thing is being sold off, entire asset is being... Every such PSU, which is carefully identified, which is sitting over vast chunk of assets which are not being used or cannot be used in the next 40, 50 years, is the one which is getting carved out carefully and then valuated, and after valuation is being monetized. So it's not as a total ripping off. So monetization is done carefully without depriving any future plans that these undertakings will want those assets for. And obviously it will generate liquidity, and therefore it's important. I did mention about the ownership and control. The maturity of the Indian insurance company is one thing which we have to keep in mind. In the last few years, evident in the numbers that we are talking about, I said total insurers have increased from 53 to 68 within a span of 5 years. Listed insurers have also increased. I said 6 of them have got listed. And asset under management has risen from 24 lakh crores to 42 lakh crores as of March 2020. So all this absolutely creates an ecosystem where the proposed FDI is only going to help with all the safeguards it has to get more investments and also competition. No such safeguards were there in the bill between 2008 and 9, and that's why we had to change, as you say, our position, because we've ensured that. I think many things were said by Sri Arvind Sawant, but I want to underline the fact that he's not here, so I don't need to elaborate, but the fact remains he was focused on LIC, whereas this one is about general insurance. Only because Honorable Member Jasbir Singh Gill, again, I will only respond to that one line which Honorable Member said, which I think is very unfair. I would seek him to rethink his lines. हमारा सब कुछ क्यों बिगाड़ रहे हो? सर, हमारे बैंक के हालात, प्रॉम्प्ट करेक्टिव एक्शन में वो सब खड़े होने के कारण नेशनलाइजेशन श्रीमती इंदिरा गांधी ने की, मगर करप्शन को नेशनलाइज करने वाले यूपीए पिछले 10 साल के सरकार के द्वारा बिगाड़ने वाले के काम यूपीए सरकार के द्वारा पब्लिक सेक्टर बैंक में हुआ है। वो बिगाड़ने वाले के काम करके गए हैं, उसको सही करने का मेहनत माननीय मोदी जी के द्वारा हो रही है। और आप भी आपके स्पीच में नीरव मोदी, चोकसी वगैरह के जिक्र किए, वो सब पालन पोषण करने वाले आप ही थे। हम उनके पीछे पीछे जाकर के उनको इस देश के कानून के सामने खड़े रखने के लिए हम उनको ले आ रहे हैं वापस। इसीलिए हमारा सब कुछ क्यों बिगाड़ रहे हो? आप जरा आपके डायनास्टी से पूछ लीजिए, आपके परिवार जो है, जो चलाते हैं कांग्रेस पार्टी को, उनसे पूछ लीजिए इस देश को बिगाड़ने वाले काम आप क्यों कर रहे हैं, और उस पार्टी के वरिष्ठ मेंबर हैं आप। Sir, Honorable Chairperson, Madam, I think largely I've responded to all the members. I would like to request all the members through you, kindly please to consider this bill and help us pass it. Thank you very much.
प्रश्न ये है कि विधेयक पर विचार किया जाए। जो सदस्य इसके पक्ष में है वो हाँ कहें, जो सदस्य इसके विरोध में वो ना कहें। मेरे विचार में निर्णय हाँ वालों के पक्ष में हुआ, हाँ वालों के पक्ष में हुआ। विधेयक पर विचार करने हेतु प्रस्ताव को स्वीकृत किया गया और अब सभा विधेयक पर खंडवार विचार करेगी। श्री जसबीर सिंह गिल, संशोधन संख्या 1।